I think it was a very nice way of introduction of saying, Theo, you're not educational professional, and I'm very honored to be amongst all distinguished educational professionals, as in this room. Theo, you are IT professional, and you know something about management. So thanks for the introduction. Question, who knows what is Microsoft Partners in Learning program? Can you please raise your hand? So I see our colleagues from Egyptian Ministry of Education do know, and from Moldovan Ministry of Education. Well, in a nutshell, Microsoft Partners in Learning is Microsoft investment program to support ICT in education. So it's a 10 years long program with good budget behind. We have colleagues like that in 110 countries around the world who are, you are ambassador in Microsoft and Microsoft ambassador for education in your country educational system. So if you are not using today, you are Partners in Learning manager in your country, my advice is make a better use of it. Thanks for the invitation for this forum. 4 years ago, I took this job, and I took this job for a very personal reason. I mean, my mother is a teacher. I had 3 children. Stage when I'm aware of the importance of education, about how our life, how next generations will continue. So as, okay, I need to support educational systems. So the institutional view of educational system, like ministry, regional educational authorities, schools, teachers, students, community centers, vocational, etc. Then I look at the other elements, like devices, learning, content, important pieces of the puzzle. So already the complexity of the system started to fill my head, and as you heard, I'm an engineer. I want to have a concept in order to organize, in order to manage, in order to improve and support. And then I have the chance to be on the Committee for Innovative Schools program, the worldwide program that Microsoft runs to support innovative schools. And I started seeing even one next level of complexity. Where is a school? What is a school? Where do I learn? All the interesting questions that the speakers this morning referred to. So for the first time since few years, I had a very quiet summer, which means I had the chance to read books. And I think I learned from each of those books something important for me, how to be more adaptive servant to the educational colleagues. I did some work this summer on the ICT handbook for teachers, for school ICT administrators and educational leaders, which is the goal of this handbook is to try put some concrete examples. Once you know what educational outcomes you want to achieve, once you know what your national curriculum says, how can technology help? And how can technology help depending on who are you? Are you a teacher? Are you a school leader? Are you an educational leader? And we have a colleague who is working on the students piece. So out of this, and by the way, with the weather here, it's still summer for me because I live in Munich where it's 16 degrees. So with the summer behind me, my 2 key learnings that I can offer you are 2. Is the most impact, according many people, is when the impact is in the classroom. And I think Dr. Grace Grima talked about this morning. And the second one is that there is a systemic view how to make ICT more helpful, that cuts through all the levels of complexity between institutional interests, between technology, between the many agents in educational system. And I happen to know the person who developed this blueprint for making schooling more effective, Mike Lloyd. So I can warmly recommend you his book. I have with me a copy if somebody is interested. Mike Lloyd, Schooling at the Speed of Thought. I think he was somehow alluding to the Bill Gates book about business at the speed of thought. So that blueprint combines some of the aspects that Radu was talking with the picture about the iceberg, that the technology, the pedagogy, the process, the people, the system. So that blueprint gave me a chance to say, okay, that is the process I could take, and it's not any general change management process. It's not any general change management process which is adapted for education only, because it also combines interesting, good examples of how some people are solving this part of the puzzle that the blueprint is talking about, and it's 7 steps. And that blueprint gave me a chance to organize in my head what are the different things that Microsoft can offer you for each of the steps. Just to refer, the way how in Microsoft we build Windows and other projects, the products, which is a significant project, is using the solutions framework, and the schooling blueprint takes some elements of the solutions framework. So all our experience in how you get customers' requirements, how you design the solution, how you build the solution, how you implement the solution, how you turn the whole life cycle of the solution and support it, it's implemented in this schooling blueprint. And the content is organized around how can software accelerate the process. By accelerate, it implies improving. How can software be used to make better decisions from the teachers, parents level to all the people involved into the educational system? And of course, the new for some of us, how can I use the cloud computing? And I like the assumptions in this schooling blueprint that there is no additional money, because we all hear there are budget cuts coming, do more with less. Nobody said do less with more so far. So according the efficacy figures for how much we get out of the money we spend in education, I think Rado already said to Irina, we are wasting this money. So there is, if 7% according World Bank is the efficacy of money spent in education, we can improve without additional money. Then I hear that we reach the limit of the factory approach with the classroom. Rado again was alluding to the last 300 years of education. I hear some ministries of education colleagues who are already saying, hey, I don't have additional budget. I need to cut for producing of the paper school books. And I have a change in the curriculum, so I need to show what is the roadmap for my country, so that parents don't say, well, thank you very much, our country now is in crisis, you're cutting on the school books, how are we going to move forward? So this assumption that by new ways of teaching, there is already reserve for increased effectiveness. And many of the teachers that we are working with are using project-based learning, are using rich multimedia, etc. So it's not only how we use data to manage education, to make these preventive interventions, but also the teaching methods that we use. And I really like the comments from Rado, from Professor Mircea about, and from the minister from Cyprus about the pedagogical approach. I also read the latest Cassandra report, which shows the preferences in US among students, the generations Y and Z. which very much correlates to what Professor Michel was saying, how our customers, the students, want to see things, want to learn things. And by the way, I mean, there is an interesting project in Microsoft. How many of you are using Xbox and Kinect? Can you please raise your hand? Okay, I see the gamers in the... Wow, I mean, if I ask this question in a school, I would say the proportion would be the opposite. So one of the interesting school book publishers who is wondering how the business will evolve after the paper school books is playing with Xbox Live. And you can say, well, Xbox Live is for gamers to get points and to share experience and to play online what it has to do. So the Xbox Live platform gives you the chance that you have the platform where if you put the educational content that Civeco and other organizations are developing, you can make the teaching, the learning content as fun as a game, and you can achieve one more thing, that all the experience of the student can be accumulated into the personal portfolio. In the same way how when you play on the Xbox Live, all your achievements are in your profile and you can share with each other. The same way Xbox Live and the educational content from Civeco and other organizations can be put into the student's personal portfolio so that the teacher and the parent can say, whoops, that's what my child is doing. So the blueprint builds on the notion of the software 2.0. I'm very glad that Radu gave interesting examples. I got as a present a telescope, and physical telescope, but shame on me, I was not able to see any star. I even managed to miss the moon. But when I used the worldwide telescope as a cloud service, for the first time I saw these moon craters and I understood what mesh are doing. So if some of your schools are looking like this, I think Rado also gave a good examples that the schools could look like this. And the principles behind this is that creation, I wouldn't say it's more important, but it turns at the end to be much more prevailing than the content. So that the act of the creation, and that's why students prefer the acts of the creation, it's much faster than the content. And the minister from Cyprus made a very good statement in saying, we started the reform, we designed the new curriculum, we got the content to support the new curriculum, and by the time we were ready, we were already late because things are moving on. So this creation trumps content is an important principle. The second one, and I'm glad that Rado saved me time, is that the learning is a social construct. And all this ICT technology is giving a very nice way, and also very dangerous way if we don't manage it, put it in the right context, for this learning as a social construct. And then use the data to personalize. And I see some countries in Europe are implementing the competencies, now that there are some definitions about what are those 21st century skills and competencies. But if I'm a teacher, and I normally consult with my mother, who is old enough to give me in a way, the best of pedagogical teaching and the worst of ICT use in teaching. So if you're a teacher and if you want to organize in your lesson plan, in the time allocated for you, how are you going to make sure that your students are getting the knowledge according to the subjects, according to the curriculum, and at the same time are getting the 21st century skills or competencies, however they're called in your national curriculum? It's a pretty challenging task to organize this. Not to speak about even personalizing between spreading the children into the class. So I'm not going to show you examples because I think Radu did an excellent job in showing examples for the social constructivism. and about the content creation. I want to give you an example about the personalized learning and how data can support it. Because as one teacher from the innovative school put it well, he said, whatever you do about personalized learning, it's still going to be the academic hour in the school. I'm still going to have my 27 students in the classroom, and I still need to break them in groups according their skills within this academic hour. So even if without changing the physical setup of the school and of the classroom, the data allows you to reach to the personalized learning. And when we work with the Russian colleagues on how do you break the personalized learning to create a dynamic timetable? And without IT, I mean, it's impossible to do it. If you remember in school, when you do a timetable on a paper, it's a pretty hard job, especially when you have a teacher who is not coming for the day. And if you want to do a personalized timetable without IT, it is impossible. Even if you're teaching the standard subjects, even if you don't add the complexity about the skills and the competencies on top. So there are examples, and those of you who are going to the UK Ministerial Meeting of Education and the British Education Technology in January, which is in a way one of the largest world gatherings about educational technologies, maybe you also can be part of the Innovative Schools visit. And one of the bright innovative schools, which is led by Chris Gary, has put a system, IT system behind, so that from teachers' perspective, to school managers' perspective, to the municipality perspective, everybody can have the needed data for the preventive interventions to the student. And also, they are opening data to external services, like the social service, like the police, etc., for certain aspects of the data. So, I would, if you allow me, I would play a short video. How much time do we have? 3 minutes, okay? I should say if you allow me, and if Sandra's computer allows me. Sure.
What do we need?
To play the video. Where is your mouse? Just to play.
It's unavailable codec.
Okay. All right. Maybe I'm using codecs which are not so popular.
With my computer.
With your computer. So sorry. It's automatically saving. It is what it says in Romanian.
No, where it says.
PowerPoint salvează automată.
You understand Romanian then?
Well, I understand the book. Okay. So, I think, I mean, what I wanted to show from the video, but what I will make sure that you get the link because it's available on the public internet of this UK company, which is behind the Innovative School in Kent. And I think it's a very interesting video that allows you to see if you're a teacher, if you are a school director, if you're a parent, if you're a regional administrator, what type of information you can get. And also if you're a parent and if you're wondering where to put your child, which is one of the important decisions. Because just imagine if Ministry of Education gets this information aggregates and then put it on the internet. So that, for example, if one of my 3 children is gifted in mathematics, that I can select which of the schools is good in mathematics, which is good also in languages, which is good in my neighborhood. So the other example, the last example I wanted to give, but I think rather also saved me time, was about how technology, and including cloud computing, can be used for assessment, for examination. And if you heard about the Australian project, where Ministry of Education in Australia, who was spending, you see the numbers here, a large amount of money for one day to test their children by moving to cloud-based assessment and testing. This is now what they are paying as a total budget. And there is also supporting examples for such type. So in a way, my finishing comments would be, there is a blueprint that covers how to take ICT and to make it useful for me for each of the steps of the process. There are people who has done similar systems. I'm a believer of good examples, but I still cannot find one country or region that did in a good example way all the steps. So unfortunately, it's still, that country did well assessment and examination, that country did well personalized learning on a school level, that country did well data for the business intelligence or MIS. So we are still unfortunate in the world in this phase of pointing here and there for good examples. But what I'm glad that finally we can offer a good process to make your schooling more effective. And for those of you who want to learn more, I would recommend Mike Lloyd, or if you want to see me in the break. And the last point I want to make, because the colleague from Ministry of Education in Egypt raised it, it was the access to ICT. And of course, I mean, not many countries in the world have the numbers of students like Egypt, but if you go outside on the right side, there is a stand where Sandra's colleagues is demonstrating multipoint, which is one way to very cost effectively increase the access to ICT in your school, in your system. So thanks for this opportunity to share the results of my 4 years work and summer reading with you, and I will be glad if I can help. Thanks.